about a lady. Tom Jones used to sing a song like that, didn't he? She's a lady. Whoa, whoa, whoa. She's a lady. I know. Don't quit my day job. I know.
There's only 5 of us.
Yeah. Thank you. She's a lady.
There you go.
That's about as good as it gets on that too. There's a lady in the Bible that, in my opinion, is a lady above ladies. She was above. My phone was talking to me, and I was like, "What?" I've got it on the Bible app, and it was talking. I was like, it kind of freaked me out there for a minute. Have you ever heard the story of Esther? Esther had, and I don't have, you'll find this, she actually has her own book. Go figure. She's got her own book in the Bible. It's called, can anybody tell me the name of the book that Esther's in? Oh, good choice, yeah. Boy, you're sharp, wow. Bet you're topping, yeah. It's pretty good. The dab needs a little work, but yeah, that was a good answer. Esther was a very unique young lady in Israel's history. And she has a lot to do with us tonight. She has a lot to do. How many of y'all have ever heard of Supergirl? What is she? A hero. Yeah. Superwoman. Wonder Woman. She's a hero. Man, the new Wonder Woman's like as mean, as tough as Superman. I'm like, what? But Esther in the Bible is a real life, ladies and gentlemen, Esther was a real live superhero. There's a time in the history of Israel, they have been captured by the Persians. And they have become part of the Persian Empire. And at that time, has anybody ever heard of a king named Xerxes? This king had, you know, they talk about the Roman Empire, but I don't know if it had anything on the Asian Empire during his reign. He was gobbling up everything he came in contact with. His kingdom was huge. He had kingdoms and kingdoms under him. Well, anyways, in this kingdom, he has a woman that kind of cheats him and stabs him in the back kind of thing, and he gets mad. And so his counselors come to him, Brother Scott, and they say, listen, you're king of kings out here. You're the big dog. There's lots of pretty women in your kingdom. Why don't we just gather up all the pretty girls, and we'll clean them up, and we'll doll them up for a whole year. For a whole year, Brother Carey. They did nothing but clean these ladies up. The first 6 months, they dolled them with oil. Make their skin really soft. Just, rub them with oil all the time. The next 6 months, they just lay the perfume on them. I imagine you could smell them from 3 countries away. They fixed their hair. They actually, not only were these ladies brought in, but if you were kind of like American Idol, if you made it to the upper, they gave, one of them, Esther, actually makes it to this. They give her 7 women, servants, to help take care of her. Just to dress her, clean her, brush her hair. They're like, they take dolling them up pretty serious. Well, Esther just happens to be I'd say she was probably the great niece of a man named Mordecai. But he takes her under his wing like his own daughter. Now listen, I'm going to try to get through this story pretty quick. If you don't listen, how many of y'all ever watch the show, you come in the middle and you're like, I don't get it. Let's turn the channel, I don't get it. Yeah, nobody likes to come in. Well, if you don't listen, you're going to be coming in the middle of the story, you're going to go, so what was Esther doing? There's a little bit of a story here, and I'm going to try to get through it. Mordecai happens to be a good Jewish man. And he puts Esther in this situation for a reason. Because he wants her to he sees that by far the most beautiful woman in the whole kingdom. And he sees that with her favor, God's people will get favor. But Mordecai is a good Jew. And there's another character in this Bible, or in this story, besides Mordecai, besides Xerxes, there's another fellow. Now this is the fellow that some of y'all go to school with. Some of us at work go to work with this guy. His name is, I think it's Hannah. 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 I think it's Hannah. That's what I'll call him. Hannah is the kind of guy that wants to be the one that's always seen, and if he's got to step all over you, Brother Scott, to get to the top, that's where he wants to be. He doesn't care who he steps on. I'll be honest with you, Brother Jared, he don't care who he has to kill to get there. But he wants to be the number one dog. In the midst of this,
Haman.
Haman. I missed the letter. Haman. I have it right here. I think it was Wilburton. I've read it about. It is Haman. Sorry, brother. I guess every time I look at that, I've been reading it a couple times a day, but it was early this morning without my glasses. It looked like two N's. It's an M. I see it now. Haman. Anyways, during the time that Haman's trying to get up and get his game on, Brother Mordecai does a big one for the king. Two of his leaders underneath Xerxes are upset and mad at the king, and they decide they're going to overthrow the kingdom. Sister Esther finds out about this. She tells Mordecai, and Mordecai gets it to the... Well, actually, no, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Mordecai finds out about it. He tells Esther. Esther tells Haman, or tells Xerxes. Are y'all staying there with me? I've done lost myself. She finds out what these two men are doing from Mordecai. She tells Xerxes, she says, Sir, King, my uncle, well actually she didn't tell him it was her uncle then, because she was hiding that she was a Jew the whole time. Don't ask me why, sometimes we do. We hide who we really are, amen? Amen. Sometimes as Christians we hide who we really are. Amen? Amen. In school, at work, sometimes we just try to blend. Well, Esther tries to blend. But she does a big one for the king, and the king has these two men. Guess what they do back then? Has anybody ever seen, you know when you take a marshmallow and you stick it on a stick and you put it, that's kind of what they like to do back then. They called it impaling. They would take a big pole and they would stick you on it like a shish kebab. So these guys get put on there like a shish kebab. And the king is like, wow, you saved me from these guys trying to kill me. But he kind of forgets about it. In the long run, Haman steps up and he becomes, he gets the king's favor doing some things, and he kind of gets things kind of organized, and the king goes, wow, Haman, I'm going to make you really, you know what? There's a decree going to go out that every time you drive by or every time you ride by on a horse, everybody's going to bow. Guess who doesn't bow? Brother Mordecai, because he don't bow to anything but God. Every time you go by, you know what's funny about it, brother? I thought, Brother David, what was really funny, Haman doesn't even realize it's going on for a long time. He just keeps going by Mordecai, and Mordecai's like, I ain't bowing. I ain't going to bow to him. Finally, some of his men go, man, did you know, Brother Haman, did you know that every time you walk by and every time you drive by on your horse, that guy, he don't ever bow down? What? So the next time he goes by, he kind of makes a point to look at it. Sure enough, he's not doing it, and he comes home, and he's like in a rage. And he actually has the power of the king to do something about old Mordecai. But this is where he oversteps his bounds. He should have just handled it one-on-one, Brother Parker. But instead, he decides to talk it up and speak it up. And his wife says, listen, why get rid of just one of them Jews? Let's get rid of every one of the Jews. I hope you're listening. What Haman decides is to kill every Jew in the kingdom. Kill everybody. Men, women, and children. I want them all dead. I don't want to ever see another Jew in my life. And so he devises a plan, and he tells the king that there's some people that ain't listening to his decrees, and they're just doing what they want. And the king says, what? Well, here's my ring. You do what you got to do to take care of this problem. So Haman decides to put out a decree, and he puts out a decree in the whole country, and he tells them, listen, every province, every town like Wilburton, that'd be like us, the mayor would come out and go, hey, listen, there's been a decree sent down from the king that on December 31st, whatever day he picked out, we're going to come out, and everybody's going to turn on the Jews, and we're going to absolutely annihilate them, kill them, their children, and then we're going to take all their belongings and we're going to plunder everything they did have. We're going to kill all of them, and then we're going to take all their belongings. Well, the Jews find out about it, and they're like, oh my goodness. So guess what? I know y'all are going, I thought this story was about Esther. Well, here she is. Because now the whole kingdom, or all the Jewish people, are fixing to be killed by this kingdom. I think there was like 167 provinces, 160 cities were going to come against all the Jews. And in each town, they're just crying and weeping. Mordecai is crying and weeping. He's in sackcloth and ashes because he knows that they're going to kill every one of them. And this Haman fella is going to be great. He's the one doing it all. And there's nothing to be done. Because see what happened back then, Brother Scott? When the king put his stamp on it and he said that's the way it is, guess what? Not even the king could break a king's decree. It had to be done the way he put it down. So Mordecai's just, he's beside himself. And so his grandniece finds out about this and she goes, what is going on with you? Put on some. He said, I can't. He said, I can't. He won't even come in. He can't come in because he's in sackcloth and he's in ashes and he's not allowed into the king, or into where the king's things, into his part of the palace part without getting cleaned up, and he ain't doing it. So she sends her eunuch, one of her servants, out there, and guess what? He tells them the whole story. We're fixing to all be killed. And she's like, well, that's terrible. You know, I wish there's something I could do. And Mordecai sends back a thing to her and says, listen, you can go into the king and talk to him. And she sends back to him and says, listen, everybody that steps into the king's throne without being called for, Brother Kerry, you didn't just walk in there and go, excuse me, Your Majesty, I need to talk to you. Because if you walked in and he happened to be in a bad mood and he didn't raise his golden scepter, guess what? They'd take you out there right then and kill you. Because you just didn't walk in. He didn't like being interrupted. And if he didn't raise that golden scepter, that meant you're going to die. He doesn't even have to tell anybody. All he does is just keeps on doing what he's doing, and you're a dead person. So Mordecai looks at her, or sends back a message to her and says, listen, we're all going to be killed if you don't go in there. And I'll tell you another thing. If you think you're going to get saved by this, you're wrong. Because either by this or said, you know what, Mordecai, I love his faith. You know what Mordecai actually says? God's going to deliver us. But if you don't do this, you're definitely going to die. And I love her answer to him. Listen to this, young people. You want to know what a real hero does? Adults, you want to know what the true hero does? She sends back to Mordecai and she says, listen, you pray and fast for 3 days, and I'll do the same thing. And then I'll go in and talk to the king. What? Guys, if you want to know what a hero does, they don't shoot their mouth off. They don't go beat somebody up. They don't go bad talking somebody. They don't go out there and try to cause trouble. They don't try to get even. They pray and they fast. And they find God's will for the situation. How many of y'all ever did that? Y'all ever had something big happen in your life? Y'all ever have something that just you can't figure out, you don't know what else to do? How many of y'all just thought, well, you know, I had somebody texting me tonight, and I'm not going to mention names, but they said they had a specialist that they were supposed to see, and they couldn't make it. They weren't going to be able to church tonight because that specialist, they sure wish that they could get that appointment with that specialist brought up to a closer time so they didn't have to wait. And all I could think of, I almost texted back and said, I wish people would go to God with the same kind of faith they have in those specialists.
Amen.
A hero doesn't take matters into their own hand. A hero says, God, what is your will in this situation? They pray and they fast. And you know what happened? They did exactly that. The whole Jewish nation fasted for 3 days. The whole Jewish nation prayed. How many of y'all think you could do that? Pray for 3 days. How many of y'all think you could fast for 3 days?
Amen.
I bet everybody in here could. I bet everybody in here would do it if you were going to get killed on the 4th day. I bet everybody would be at the altars on Monday, on Tuesday, and on Wednesday if they knew that Thursday they were going to get their head cut off.
Yes.
I bet everybody would be praying, I got to get right with God. I need help. There's about 500 of us, but there's about 500,000 of them. There might be 1,000 of them. There might have been 100,000, Brother Kerry. I don't know. It doesn't say. But the fact is, there was hundreds and millions of them. And they knew things were going to get real serious real quick if they didn't get a hold of God. And on the 4th day, Brother Parker, she walked in there. And because she had handled herself so well with the king, the fact is, Esther had won great favor. He'd actually picked her as his queen. She is now Queen Esther. But even a queen's not allowed to enter without permission. And she takes a chance. But because she prayed for 3 days, and because the nation of Israel had prayed for 3 days, when she walked in, guess what he said? Come on in, you good-looking woman. I am so glad I made you my wife. You're so pretty. I'll tell you how smitten he was. And now how many men can say amen to this? I'll tell you how smitten he was. He said, Esther, I'll give you anything you want. Up to half of my kingdom. It's yours. Whatever you want, you sweet thing. How many of you boys are like that? Yeah, baby, I think I got a little money left in my wallet here. You take it here. Just take the wallet. You so pretty. You can have anything you want. Long story short, Esther, and what was really funny about this, can I tell you what happens? Now listen, I said that this are people you go to school with, or people you go to work with, are kind of like Haman, that they kind of stab you in the back and they kind of sneak around and destroy you and trying to get you. Yeah, I see a lot of heads nodding yes. But I think sometimes we have to watch, or we're the Haman in the story. We got to watch our mouths. Why do you think the Bible talks about backbiting and gossiping, and he puts it in there as a sin? And he calls it, some places it says, you know what? Sin to God. Murderer, gossiper. Same area. Same thing to God. I know we got different areas, but God says, listen, you're killing with your mouth. Amen? But oh, Haman, you know what I thought was so funny? Is, you know, I told you that Israel had been praying for 3 days and fasting for 3 days. Here's the best part. Here, it's getting all good now. I'm fixing to be done. Here's the good part of the story. Oh, Haman, he decides, listen, I'm going to take care of Mordecai myself. He puts a 50-foot tall pole out there in the courtyard, and that's what he's going to impale Mordecai. He's decided, I'm going to stick him on there like a big spear. I'm going to not only put him on a pole, I'm going to put him on the very top pole. I want everybody to see what I've done. So Haman decides to do this. Well, in the meantime, now, Sister Noma, I have no doubt that 3 days of prayer and fasting has got the king. Guess what he does? He goes, hey, it seemed like just a few months ago, somebody saved my life. He actually, this is what's funny. He goes, I'd like to see the royal book. Just out of the blue. So they start reading it to him, and it says, and these 2 guys tried to kill you, and you had them impaled. And he goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. What 2 guys? Well, these 2 guys here. Did I ever do something about that? No, he said. Well, who was the guy that did that? Who saved me? Oh, his name's Mordecai. Well, I need to honor him. So Haman comes in in there and he's fixing to ask the king and tell him, listen, I can't wait for the rest of the Jews to die. I want Haman to be stuck on that big pole. He comes in there and he's got his mind made up. I'm going straight to the king, and the first thing I'm going to do is tell him to kill this guy. And the minute he gets in there, the king goes, Haman, Haman, you're just the man I need. Matter of fact, he asked his servants. I'm sorry, I almost got it wrong. He asked his servant, who's out there in the court? And they go, Haman's out there. Well, bring him on in here. I got a good question for him. And so Haman comes in there. Here's the funny part, guys. You want to hear the funny part? He goes, Haman, what would you do to honor somebody that should have honor above everybody else in my kingdom? What should we do for him? And Haman, it even says in the Bible, it says, he thought they were talking about him. Well, okay. Good-looking guy that I am, I'm thinking that you ought to give him one of the robes, not just any robe, one of your robes that you just wore. Because everybody know that, hey, King gave you this. I can never forget those little girls when that one guy hugged them. I ain't never washing his shirt again. That's probably the way it felt. Give me one of your robes. And he tells them, and you need to give him one of your best horses. And then have him ride through town and have somebody walk along beside him, heralding. You know, this is Haman. This is the great man that saved the king. And he was just like, oh yeah, this is that. And you know what he was doing? He was just smothering on thicker because he thought it was him. And he thought, man, you ought to give him this, and you ought to make him this. And you know what? You ought to make a day, a holiday, named after him. That's a great idea. I tell you what, Mordecai saved my life. I want you to go out. I want you personally, Haman, go get him, put my robe on him, put him on my horse, and I want you to walk alongside of him, telling everybody how good he was. And Haman's like, what? And in the meantime, his smart wife, Xerxes' smart wife, Esther the hero, she says, she's not quick to just say, hey, this is what I want. She's like, King, I want to make a banquet for you. And you know what? Have Haman come too. So they come and she makes this big old meal. And he's, you know what? He's like, she's pretty and she can cook. Whatever you want, baby. I then told you I'd give you half the kingdom. He tells her this about 4 or 5 times in this story. I'll give you anything you want up to half the kingdom. I think by the end of it, he was willing to say, you want both halves? I'll just step down. You just have it all, baby. But she doesn't even ask him for what she wants. She said, I'll tell you what. Can we do this again tomorrow? Have just you and Haman show up this time, and I'll let you know. He said, I'd like to have another banquet.